ask this guy about that.
Yeah, nobody knows the NFL like this guy. He's only a 11-year veteran, Pat DiMarco.
Hey, guys.
A lot of bumps.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl this year, Pat? The Buffalo Bills.
That'd be nice. They'd be about 5 years too late, though, because I wouldn't get a ring. I think the Eagles are sitting there pretty primed with signing Saquon and, all the pieces they already have in place, and see if they can stop anybody on defense. That was more their issue last year. But
help me with the timeline, Pat. Your last year, did you coincide?
Was training camp of 2020. That's when I hurt my neck, and that's when I decided before I break every bone in my body, I should probably hang them up.
So you coincided with Allen then, right?
Yeah, I had so it would have been, I played 2 full years with Josh, and then 2020 unfortunately was his breakout year, and that was the year that I was done.
So here's my question. I laugh. I'm at a point now in the NFL where I don't root for teams as much as I do players. Like, I'm a Josh Allen fan. I marvel at his.
You're a fantasy football guy.
Well, I am, but it's not just that. I'm a fan of greatness.
Yeah.
Like, I love watching the best in the world do things that you just like. I love watching Pat Mahomes. He's never been on my fantasy team.
I thought you were about to say my name. My goodness gracious.
Well, I mean, that goes without saying, Pat. And clearly, and you were a late round steal when you could get Pat DiMarco. We included pancake blocks in my league, so you always
I would
up
always
there.
be in my league I did with my buddies. I would always be Mr. Irrelevant, and they would cut me the next day.
Cut you the next day, right after the kicker. But no, I laugh when I hear some people. There's some people that clearly just don't like Josh Allen, and it just comes through on their analysis. He hasn't had nearly the supporting cast of a Pat Mahomes or some of these other quarterbacks. Nothing like that. He had one marquee receiver who's a diva and problems, and they've got rid of Diggs.
Yeah.
They're hoping Keon Coleman can be that dude. But I watch his talent, and I know he makes too many mistakes. He throws too many picks. He's got a little Brett Favre in him. Yeah. But I'm just amazed. So I'm just wondering, close up, you saw it. I mean, is that the freakiest guy you saw?
He is a freakazoid. I mean, he is 6'6", 250, and probably from a 40, I don't know what he ran at the combine, 4.7, but like he runs away from linebackers. He runs away from defensive ends. He will try to run you over, jump over you. Like he reminds me of, I guess, my counterpart in the new podcast, but he reminds me so much of Stephen from like a competitive, like I can do everything and pull everything off. I remember I mentioned that to Josh at one point, and he's like, Stephen Garcia, never heard of him. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're from Wyoming, California. He's like, I don't know if is that a nice thing or a mean thing that you're saying right now to me?
Yeah. You remind me of Stephen Garcia. Anybody ever told you that?
Yeah.
No. Well, maybe you can let him and Stephen talk ball on Tailgate Talks. It is out and on our app, and also, of course, available through Gamecocks Plus. It is phenomenal for those who have not had a chance to check it out to this point. I know just a little while ago we had some folks here in the Nano Sports chat box that mentioned how much they enjoyed it. Pat, of course, last week with Boogie and Luke. This week with the HBC. That'll be out on Wednesday morning, and can't wait for that. So we don't have you for about another 15 minutes or so. We got to get you got to go to your day job. You got to go make some money for your family.
Right.
So let's talk ball. You and Stephen have both mentioned that, and you've been around the program much more than he has, being down in Tampa, but just being over at the facility, walking in, seeing the guys. They just, now, do they play different? We'll find out, but they look different. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, just sheer size. I remember my first year with the program, I guess it was 21, 22. I know the eye test isn't necessarily much to say, but like we lost the eye tests 8 out of 12 games those first 2 years. And now, just walking into that building, seeing how big we are up front, seeing how like girthy we are at backer, tight ends. Like we don't fail the eye test anymore. So now talent, execution, all that stuff comes into play at this point. But at least when you walk off the bus, like the other team's not looking at you thinking that they got you already. And that's not saying anything against them, but you're sitting there, and there's a piece to it. I remember when I went up to Buffalo for a game, and I went and had dinner with 15 or 20 buddies, and we were sitting down, and it was offensive linemen, linebackers, and I'm like, just thinking to myself, not out loud, but I was like, there's not a player on South Carolina's roster back then that looked the way that some of those guys did. And now, I mean, just being there for 2 practices, they're big up front. They're big and beefy. Hopefully they can move people and create holes. And I mean, everything I'm hearing from Rocket Sanders is all the hype. And then obviously with Lenorris, as an extra added tool in the run game, like it should be interesting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For what it's worth, by the way, this program, Mike, JC, Phil, and myself, we pass the eye test too, but execution generally is our issue around here as well. So totally can relate to what you're saying.
You guys heck of long snappers and kickers and punters.
We need a couple of specialists for sure.
I'll be the kicker if anybody needs one. So, Pat, I mean, you've been around South Carolina football now for this will be your 18th season, kind of being a part of it, either as a player or former player that's close to it. In that time, what is I'm just talking about the offense right now. We'll get to defense later, but offensively, what is the best version of Gamecock football? How would you describe what makes them click?
I think in anything everything has to be balanced. So having a running attack that can help you set up stuff down the field. So I mean, you look at the NFL now, and there's only a handful of teams that probably run the ball 30 plus times a game. It is an extremely pass heavy game, but when you got a young quarterback and when you're efficient running the ball and you're averaging 4 or 5 plus yards a carry, your record's gonna. I mean, but if you go back through and look at San Fran last year, who statistically was one of the best teams on paper, they ran the ball efficiently. They didn't put Brock Purdy in many games where he had to throw the ball 40 times. So I think a well-balanced offense, especially with the young quarterback in Lenorris, like as good as freaky and as good as some of the things he's going to do, we're going to get 1 or 2 boneheaded decisions he's going to make. And that's just a part of it. I mean, Stephen did it. Connor did it. Like, Connor struggled his first year and then struggled a little bit his second year. And then after that, it was like whoosh. So, I mean, it just takes time. And, I mean, with Dow Loggins being as tuned into the quarterback room and have developed as many quarterbacks as he has, hopefully that'll alleviate some of the growing pains. But, yeah, I mean, just a well-balanced. I mean, we would – in Buffalo when we had LaShawn McCoy and Frank Gore, we had a formula that if those two touched the ball more than 30 times a game, I want to say our winning percentage was like 750. Now, if they didn't, it was complete opposite. So you just got to find your formula and what works for you and what makes everybody stay on tune.
Yeah. Last year we entered the season and it sure felt like there were some major holes. We knew the situation at running back. We kind of knew the situation, and then it really started to turn itself out at the beginning of the season at offensive line. There wasn't a ton of depth there, and we knew that injuries would probably throw them backwards, and it did. We knew on the defensive side of the football that they had some places to plug, and all this really came back to depth at the end of the day. This year has been those conversations, and again, does it equate to wins? We don't know. We'll have to find out. But we're not having those same conversations. Even in the receiver room, while there's not that proven number one guy, there's still a bunch of depth, and they're competing for playing time, much more so than there really has been in quite some time. So how do you describe the importance of quality depth in this league? And then using your own eyes with what you've seen out there, how would you kind of describe what the Gamecocks are working with right now in preseason?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like a huge part of that is the new landscape of college football, and that's the transfer portal. Like you come in the first year when Shane was here, and we're like, I mean, I was sitting in the staff room where we were trying to figure out what exactly we were doing, how this was going to work, and how this went. I mean, in those years, like we were still cranking out top 15, top 20 recruiting classes in the country, but it is hard to develop kids that fast. It's hard for a freshman, sophomore to come in and be an impact player and take over the game. There aren't that many Alshon Jeffries and Marcus Lattimores. Sorry, guys. There's just not. So, like, with the new landscape and being able to go and plug and play with some of these portal guys, I think that's been a big thing that South Carolina's done over the last 2.5, 3 years is we've been able to go into the portal and sign guys who have SEC experience, ACC experience, Power 5 experience. So I think that's a big piece to it. But I also hate that. I also hate that too, because I was a 2-star prospect coming out of high school. I was able to get on the field early, but I mean, I don't think there's many 2-stars that get as much grace anymore as they used to. Where if you can't come in and we don't get immediate output in a year or two, or you're not trending to be one of those guys in year 3. See you later. So I mean, I do think Shane has done a great job of rebalancing this roster, bringing in depth, bringing in impact players. He's done a great job portal shopping.
Pat, what do you want to see out of LaNorris Sellers in week 1?
I just want to see a confident player. I want to see somebody that goes out there and is like kind of ignores the noise, because there's been a lot of it, right? I mean, he played 40 snaps last year, and I mean, South Carolina fans think he's going to win the Heisman based on those 40 snaps. And I mean, for the small quality that it was, like, it was really good. But you have to do that over 900, 1,000 snaps in the course of a game. So, I mean, I just want him to go out there and play confident, play free, kind of stay within himself and go there and complete the passes he's supposed to complete. Stay out of making dumb decisions, just like any quarterback. I mean, the turnover ratio in any game, if you're positive or negative, it's like direct correlation to winning the ball game. So 100%. And I've gotten to know him on a personal level through the recruiting cycle and all that. And I'm super proud of his development and who he is as a human being and how he handles himself. I think he's, slotted to have a stellar year, but hopefully he kind of, stays within himself and doesn't try to be somebody that he doesn't have to be.
I think one of the things, especially to your point, Mike, when you see a young quarterback take the reins in a league like the SEC, and one of the big keys to what type of quarterback do you have is what happens after he makes that mistake, whether it's on the road in Lexington or it's week 1 against Old Dominion or wherever it is, and something happens, he fumbles the football or he throws a pick or he makes whatever it is. How do you respond? What have you learned about him and anticipation of how he may respond in those moments?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I want to say it was his first spring practice last year, because I finished spring ball 2 springs ago, and that was his very first. I want to say the first practice, his first 2 passes, the 2 picks. He didn't blink, and that was like the biggest takeaways. Most freshmen, sitting there right tackle and takes on the first bull rush and gets knocked on his ass. Like, he gets up and he's like, oh my gosh, what did I just sign up for? He threw 2 picks, 3rd pass. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to rip it again. And he ended up completing that one. So I think that is a big teller of who he is as a human, how he's wired. I think LaNorris, based on the human being he is, the athletic ability, the talent, how he's hardwired, I think that he's going to be a kid that's going to be, extremely, extremely tough to break, and mental toughness in the SEC and high-level sports is at the utmost.
What do you think this offense is going to look like? Because last year you had a different kind of quarterback who was more established and obviously a track record of being extremely accurate. That's why he's in the NFL now. You also had an offensive line that couldn't block anybody. This year, you have to assume the offensive line is going to be better, and you've got a quarterback with a freaky skill set.
Yep.
But you also have Rocket Sanders, who 2 years ago was as good as any running back in the SEC. So where does that all shake down to you in the eyes of a play caller?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to look a heck of a lot different. I mean, you don't have Xavier Legette and all these guys. I mean, Spencer, as many sacks as we gave up and as poor as the pass protection was at times, Spencer was so good on 3rd and long. Like, it was sitting there in 3rd and 8, and he finally somehow finds a way to complete a second-level pass or scramble for a first down. So, I mean, I think this is going to be a team with LaNorris, who has playmaking ability with his legs, also has the arm talent, with a really good running back, with experience at tight end, with a bunch of receivers. We'll see who comes and stands out and is the guy. But as long as they can stay ahead of the chains, in that sense, just average 3 to 4 yards a carry and be efficient and complete passes and block well on the perimeter. Like, this is a team that is going to have to draw an extra safety in the box. And I know you guys, everybody probably rolls their eyes because I talk about safety rotation and people having eight guys in the box. But when we were in Atlanta and playing in Kyle Shanahan's system, there wasn't a defense that played us in too high. If a defense played us in too high and sat back, we were going to eat them alive running the football. And that just goes and takes your complete willpower out from underneath you. So, I mean, I think it's going to look different because we can't rely on LaNorris to complete 75% of passes. I don't know what Spencer's number was, but I know it was at a high rate. When he got the ball out of his hand, it was probably going to be completed. So, I mean, it's going to look different, but LaNorris has a unique skill set that, fits the game. I mean, look at the NFL now. Like, Pat Mahomes might not be crazy fast, but the teams that are good, their quarterbacks are mobile enough to make plays with their legs, to extend plays, scramble drill. Like, that's the wild card stuff.
It just is beyond fascinating to me to see the question that you asked, Mike. What does this offense look like? The imagination wanders a little bit because Dowell Loggins, a former offensive coordinator in the league, last year he comes in and has to do a bunch of things a little bit differently just to get the ball moving down the field with an NFL quarterback. And we all knew Spencer Rattler was going to the NFL. But now you bring Sean Elliott into the mix, who was masterful.
Bring that up, yeah.
So how does that? We don't know how it meshes, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I keep going back to it. It's going to be different, and I think it's going to be different week to week, game plan to game plan, which is the exciting piece because there's 17 different ways to win. Obviously, you want to have your core plays and stuff that you're comfortable with that the team has done a trillion times over, but you're going to have to get creative with a young quarterback in the run game, and there's going to be 2 extra gaps almost every single play because LaNorris can take off at any point. And, like I've always said in the run game, if there's one guy out of gap, defense has problems.
Defense. You offensive guys, you know how much I love you, but I'm a defensive guy, Pat. We around here
wins games, defense wins championships. That's what I tell my little flag football team, even though they can't hit anybody yet.
Well, they can. They're just not supposed to.
Yeah.
I think if there's anything that excites me, and maybe that excitement goes out the window by the second quarter next Saturday, I hope not. But it's the depth of the defense, and I do feel like there's some attitude over there. They return most of their guys. They've added football players. They're better up front. Those first 6 or 7, you feel like that's a strength of this team, Pat. So your thoughts on that, but also in how important that unit is going to be, especially in the first quarter of the year, for Carolina to get off to a good start. You got to go to Lexington, and they got LSU coming to town. You're not just going to run and outscore these teams with this offense. At least that's the way that I see it. Yep. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, you can't start the season behind the 8 ball. So it's going to be extremely difficult. I mean, you look after week 4, the schedule gets pretty daunting until back on the last third of the season. But, I mean, with a young quarterback and with a run game, having a great defense is a really good reason. Control the clock, control the narrative, don't turn the ball over. I think that is going to be the recipe that we're going to see for South Carolina football. Now, we could be completely surprised and LaNorris could throw for 3,500 yards, or I don't even know in college what good number. I guess 300 yards a game, but that could happen. But I think relying on the run, keeping the clock going, being efficient, getting the ball out of your hand defensively, not giving up long drives, getting the offense the ball back pretty quick, taking the ball away is going to be a big piece. And then, the wild card in all this is how is special teams going to fall into play, man. It's a 3-phase game: offense, defense, special teams. You block a punt and you win a football game. I want to say it's like 92%. You return a kickoff for a touchdown, it's probably in the 80s on if you win the football game. So there's always the wild card there. And I mean, Shane Beamer learned from his dad and has had a really good track record. And then Joey D, I think is what everybody calls him, but Joe D's come in and had a great resume in the NFL, and he's bringing that here to South Carolina. And everything I'm hearing from everybody in the building is that he's a rock star and that he's a player's coach and the guys are really buying into the system.
He married Dan Reeves' daughter. That helps too when you come to South Carolina. Pat, we'll let you run on that note. We know you got to get to work, but Wednesday morning, the HBC, Pat and Stephen will be released.
I mean, really, I was a spectator during the show. Like it was a Stephen and Steve show, and I just was able to live vicariously through them with all their stories. Those two still going at
it. We've got Dakota sent me a promo earlier. Actually, I think they might have already released it on social media. I didn't have a chance to get it into our show, but we'll have it in there tomorrow.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah. It's I'm really fired up for that, and so that, and then of course every Wednesday moving forward. Are you having fun with it? I know. Yeah. I mean, we talk often, but tell these guys you having fun with it.
It has been really cool. Stephen and I obviously live in different states. We see each other once or twice a year, but I mean, we're texting or on the phone just about every day because getting anything started takes a lot more work. And Stephen and I are like, oh my gosh, what did we sign up for? This is a lot more than we expected, but it's been really fun. Especially, I mean, we know him as a football player. I know him as a roommate. He frustrated the heck out of me at times, but it's been really cool, to see his growth and development. And same with me. I got 4 kids now. We knew each other when we were 18 to 22 years old and knuckleheads. So now from a professional standpoint, it's cool. He's coming up for the ODU game. We're gonna try to knock out 3 or 4 shows that weekend to get ahead of it. But it's been really cool and it's been well received. Everybody's I mean, our guest lineup, we were working through it, and it's gonna be pretty cool. We have not chosen the easy guest to have on. We've gone outside the box at times to give people kind of what they want to hear in the same old cool matchup, yada yada yada. No, we're gonna do it a little different our way, and hopefully everybody enjoys it.
I won't say anything about it, but I will just say that a guest for the LSU week is going to be something that will blow people's minds.
Yes,
yes, it will blow people's minds. So Granger Owings is getting you dressed now. Who's Granger Owings?
Granger Owings, they are a local retailer right here in Columbia. They have a store right on Main Street and a store here in Forest Acres on Trenton Plaza. And they do men's and women's clothing, custom suits, custom sport coats, casual wear, active wear, a little bit of everything. So, yeah, we're super excited about partnering with them. They're going to have us looking fresh all year, and our wives looking fresh. For everybody, go check out Granger Owings over on Main Street or Trenton Plaza. They will definitely get you set up.
Are they going to cut the sleeves off of these things for Stephen, or are they going to have sleeves on?
I guess they're only going to charge him 40% for 40% of a suit.
Right. How it goes. Lou Brown will come out there. We wear shorts and sleeves at this level, son.
Exactly.
Look like Charlie Sheen in Major League.
Yeah.
That's right. California Penal League.
California Penal.
Yeah.
Pat, great, man. Love seeing you. So excited that football's back. So proud of you in your program, but most importantly, just being your friend, you and your family. Can't wait to see you next weekend for Carolina football. We're looking forward to Wednesday with the HBC, and then
hey, speaking of
hey,
say hi. Say
go hi.
Hi.
Say go Gamecocks. You're a little starstruck.
Yeah.
Kids are home. Daddy's got to go.
You got it. We'll see you next week. Thanks, brother.
Pat.
There you go.